Libra love, this isn't just another message. This is a moment of reckoning because someone who once hurt you deeply is about to reach out, begging for your forgiveness. And they only have 48 hours left to live. Yes, you heard that right. Within the next 2 days, a karmic cycle you never thought would close is coming full circle. But this isn't about them. This is about your liberation. The power is no longer in their hands, it's in yours. If you found your way here, it wasn't random. Something higher, deeper, pulled you in, your intuition, your ancestors, your angels, because your soul is ready to hear what it once avoided. You're not just watching this video. You're stepping into a sacred space of emotional clarity and energetic closure. Have you been feeling restless lately? Dreams of someone you've tried to forget? Repeating numbers like 1111 or 48:48 appearing out of nowhere? That strange tightness in your chest when you pass by certain places? These aren't coincidences. They're signals. Something unfinished is seeking completion, and the universe is whispering to you, loud and clear. Libra, you've carried silent pain with grace. You've forgiven in your heart but never had the words said out loud. You've chosen peace when you could have chosen revenge. And now, the scales of justice, your scales are tipping in your favor. This person may call. They may cry. They may confess. But remember, you don't owe them a response. Forgiveness is not about validating their regret, it's about releasing your soul from the heaviness that no longer belongs to you. Forgiveness is sacred rebellion. It's saying, I free myself so I can move forward. And that is your divine right. As we begin this journey, I want to thank you from the depth of my spirit for being here with me on Zodiac Whisper Tarot. Every time you show up, every like, every share, every comment, you expand the reach of this healing message. You help us co-create a space where spirit meets strategy, where astrology meets emotional empowerment, and where our community becomes a mirror for divine transformation. So before we dive into what's coming next, Libra, my dear, tell me in the comments, do you feel it? Have you sensed this moment approaching? And are you ready to release what has already served its purpose? Write it below to claim your shift in energy. I choose peace. I forgive to be free. Your words are powerful. They echo across timelines, into the soul of the one who wronged you and into the future you're about to claim. Stay with me until the very end. You won't want to miss what the universe is revealing. Because what's ahead is nothing short of miraculous. Let's begin. Sometimes the greatest shifts begin in silence. And lately, Libra, your silence has been loud. Not because you've had nothing to say, but because you've carried so much responsibility, emotion, truth that wasn't even yours to hold. Justice, the card that governs your sign, doesn't show up to accuse. It arrives as a gentle authority, whispering that balance must return not just to your outer world, but deep within your spirit. You've forgiven without hearing the words. You've walked away quietly from situations that shattered parts of you. And still, you remained graceful. But grace, Libra, doesn't mean endurance without boundary. It doesn't mean pretending you're okay when your soul aches for acknowledgement. And now, as one karmic cycle reaches its undeniable end, the universe hands you a choice, not for anyone else's sake, but for your freedom. The person at the heart of this story, whether a former love, a family member, or someone who once played a powerful role in your lives facing the final hours of a truth they tried to avoid. And in those final hours, your name returns to them. The memory of your patience, your presence, your pine, it all echoes back in the quiet. But this isn't about them being redeemed. This is about you no longer carrying what doesn't belong to your destiny. What's happening now isn't random. In my work with energy, I've seen these patterns surface before: indingsa, restlessness in the body, dreams of someone you thought you'd let go, flashes of guilt or emotion that seem to hit from nowhere. These are not illusions. They're intuitive indicators that a spiritual thread is preparing to be cut. It's your body's way of helping you process what your mind hasn't yet explained. Listen to those signs. Your nervous system is smarter than you realize. It picks up frequencies the conscious mind can't name. And if you've noticed them lately: heaviness in the chest, a lump in the throat that won't move, sudden surges of emotion or fatigue, know that your energy is realigning. The weight isn't yours anymore. You are not being called to go backward, Libra. You are being invited to let go with clarity. Sometimes healing doesn't come from a long conversation or an apology wrapped in perfect words. Sometimes healing looks like you standing quietly in your knowing, saying nothing, but feeling everything. Forgiveness doesn't always need an audience. It only needs a willing heart. You don't need to prepare a response for their regret. You don't need to rehearse your boundaries. You've already grown beyond the version of yourself that allowed what was once allowed. If this person shows up, and they might weather through a call, a message, or even a subtle shift in your spirit, you'll know. But more importantly, you'll know that it's no longer your responsibility to carry their ending. You are only responsible for your new beginning. And in this beginning, you are being offered more than release. You are being offered rest. A holy kind of rest, the kind that comes not from sleep, but from the stillness that arrives when we stop gripping what's already fallen away. In the sacred texts I've studied, there's a repeated theme, that grace meets us where our effort ends. When we stop forcing the narrative to make sense, that's when the healing begins. And maybe that's what this moment is: a divine interruption. A quiet invitation to come back to yourself, not with guilt or pressure, but with gentle power. So if your heart is whispering that something is closing, let it. Trust that you're being protected, even if you don't yet see the outcome. And if you're unsure, say this softly to yourself: I release what no longer serves me. I honor what's ending. I trust what's becoming. That one prayer might be enough to open the space your future has been waiting for. Stay here with me. There's more unfolding ahead. And perhaps you've started to feel it, Libra, not just in your mind, but in your chest, your breath, the way your body holds tension without explanation. That deep ache that visits in the quiet hours, reminding you of something unresolved, something left unsaid. Forgiveness doesn't always arrive with a grand announcement. Sometimes, it seeps in like sunlight through curtains at dawn, subtle, gentle, but undeniable. And in your case, it is arriving now, not as a request for reconciliation, but as a sacred opportunity to put down the weight you were never meant to carry forever. You were born under the sign of balance, but you are not a machine built to maintain harmony at all costs. You are a soul in motion, and right now, your soul is asking you to clean the slate, not for them, but for you. Forgiveness, especially in its purest form, is not about condoning what happened. It is not about reopening doors that were closed for good reason. Instead, it's about reclaiming your inner space, sweeping the corners of your heart so that your next chapter has room to breathe. You may receive their apology in a message, a whispered name in a dream, or even in the feeling of someone thinking of you deeply. The form doesn't matter. The recognition does. And when that moment comes, and it will, you don't have to respond. Your silence might be the most powerful closure of all. Just like a soft rainfall, forgiveness doesn't need to declare itself. It does the work quietly. It cleanses. In the study of energy and self-healing, we often talk about emotional real estate. Every lingering wound takes up space in the psyche, space that could be used for creativity, joy, love, and peace. Letting go isn't a loss. It's a return to self. When you choose not to hold on to bitterness, you're not offering a gift to them, you're offering liberation to yourself. And there's something else to remember here. When someone who once caused harm seeks forgiveness, it is often because they finally see clearly. But that doesn't mean you owe them your healing. Your healing is yours. Your peace belongs to you. You've earned it through nights of silent strength, days when you smiled while broken, and the quiet commitment to keep walking forward, even when your legs trembled. One of the most powerful teachings I've learned through observing thousands of charts and guiding hundreds of souls is this: timing is divine. Just because someone returns with regret does not mean you have to open your door. You are allowed to hold compassion in one hand and your boundary in the other. You are allowed to say, "I forgive, but I will not return." That, too, is healing. That, too, is love. Sometimes, the most sacred thing you can offer is not your energy, but your release. Not your explanation, but your quiet truth. This is where you get to make a choice not rooted in guilt or duty, but in wisdom. If it doesn't feel aligned, you don't have to answer. If it does, then let your response be a prayer for peace, not a reopening of wounds. And in the stillness after that decision, there is space for something extraordinary. For many, it is in this space, this calm after the storm, that miracles have happened. A new job comes unexpectedly. A door opens. A burden lifts. I've seen it countless times. It's not because we forced it. It's because we made room for it. Sometimes, when we lay our emotional weapons down, life brings us more than we could have imagined. So take this moment, Libra, and feel the shift in your body. What would it feel like to no longer carry that story? What if you laid it down not because they deserved it, but because you do? You've walked the hard part already. This is the gentle part. Let it happen. Let the rain come. Let it clean what was never yours to keep. You are allowed to start again, lighter, clearer, and finally, free. What often feels like falling apart is, in truth, a cosmic clearing. Libra, as the scales of your sign suggest, your soul was never meant to live in chaos forever. And what you're sensing now, this shedding, this quiet unraveling of old ties and unspoken wounds, isn't a loss. It's alignment. It's the vibration of your life returning to its natural rhythm, no longer held hostage by the energy of others. When the tower shows up, it rarely asks for permission. It clears what's unstable, exposes what was hidden behind appearances, and leaves only what is real. But here's the thing no one tells you: the release itself is grace. You may have noticed it already, subtle signs that the energy around you is shifting. People who used to drain you now feel distant. Places that once triggered anxiety suddenly hold no weight. You're waking up lighter, breathing more easily, even if you can't explain why. That's not random. That's what happens when your frequency rises, when your energetic field starts choosing for you who stays, who fades, and what environments no longer resonate. This process doesn't require confrontation. You don't have to force separation. Often, people simply drift. It may feel like you're being left behind, but what's really happening is that your soul is stepping into its next octave, and those who can't meet you there can't follow. It's not rejection. It's redirection. In the natural cycles of astrology, we see this all the time. After eclipses, during Mercury retrogrades, or as outer planets like Pluto or Uranus activate sensitive parts of your chart, you're invited to let go of what can't evolve with you. The Tower is astrologically ruled by Mars, an active, undeniable force, and when it shows up in a reading, it doesn't ask you to think it over. It simply happens. And it clears the space so the Empress can arrive. Now, what does the Empress bring? She represents restoration, self-worth, beauty, and grounded power. But she only enters when the room is ready, when the pretending ends, when the noise quiets down, when your body stops tolerating what once kept you small. She's the version of you that doesn't chase, doesn't explain, doesn't seek validation. She knows her worth. And in this phase, you're being asked to become her. There's a very real parallel here with the rhythms of daily life. Just as you clean your home before guests arrive, just as you declutter your space before a new project, so too must your energetic field be cleared before the next chapter can begin. In the teachings I've come to trust over years of guiding others, there's often a moment when people feel tired for no reason or emotional without explanation, and it's usually right before a breakthrough. Not because something's wrong, but because something's leaving. Your body, your space, your energy theory preparing for a new reality. And in that space, there's a choice. Do you mourn what's leaving, or do you bless it for what it taught you and open the window for what's next? The Empress doesn't hold grudges. She holds grace. She honors endings not with resistance, but with presence. And that's what you're being invited to do right now. If you've ever watched a garden bloom after the rain, you'll understand this. Destruction isn't the opposite of beauty, it's often the beginning of it. When false relationships fade, when pretenses fall, when emotional weight exits quietly, that's when your true self has room to grow. And you, Libra, were never meant to stay trapped in the illusion. You were meant to rise, to radiate, and to live in relationships that reflect the light you give so freely. So if things feel like they're shifting right, know if the old is crumbling, don't rush to rebuild. Wait. Breathe. Let the wind carry out the dust. And when the air settles, trust that the energy walking toward you will be softer, clearer, more honest. You've made space. Now watch what arrives. Sometimes the shift from one energetic season to the next isn't marked by fanfare, it comes quietly, with clarity and simplicity. Libra, after all you've released, after the heaviness you've surrendered and the karmic loops you've finally closed, what stands before you now is not just a new door. It's a new foundation. The Ace of Pentacles is not merely a symbol of wealth or opportunity, it's a seed. A seed of stability, tangible growth, and lasting fulfillment, planted in the soil you've spent months, perhaps years, preparing. And now, the conditions are perfect. The universe doesn't offer the Ace of Pentacles lightly. It arrives when the inner landscape has been cleared, when your nervous system is no longer in fight or flight, when your mind is not cycling through what ifs, and when your heart has enough room to receive without fear. It's the reward of emotional maturity and spiritual discipline. You've walked through the storm. And now, in this place of quiet strength, opportunities, real ones, begin to make their way to you. This may look like an unexpected financial door opening, a new person entering your life who feels aligned and honest, or the sudden momentum of a project that had long been stalled. Don't dismiss these gifts as coincidence. You've made room for them. Astrologically, October brings Venus, your ruling planet, into focus. Venus governs beauty, love, abundance, and values. When she moves in harmony with your energy, she activates every area of life that connects with self-worth. You attract what you believe you deserve. And right now, your frequency is rising to match the blessings that were always meant for you but required your readiness. Let that sink in. Not everything delayed was denied. Some things were simply waiting for the healed version of you to arrive. In the practical realm, this is your time to root in. Prioritize consistency over chaos. Reconnect with your physical body. Your health is your anchor in this next chapter. Go to sleep before 11 p.m. when possible, and protect your energy from late-night overstimulation. Replace scattered thinking with daily grounding through breath work, slow walks, or morning silence. Supplement your nervous system with simple but powerful support, magnesium-rich foods, B-complex vitamins, and hydration. The goal now is not just to dream, but to stabilize the dream. Even your color choices hold power. Surround yourself with gentle, balancing tones: soft aqua for emotional calm, pale gold to call in confidence, and blush pink to soothe your heart and deepen your receptivity. These are not superficial shifts. They're visual affirmations of the internal work you've done. When your environment reflects your peace, your energy flows with less resistance. There's something deeply sacred about this window of time. The Ace of Pentacles is not an abstract idea, it's a practical invitation to create structure around what you value most. Whether it's a business idea, a meaningful relationship, or simply a new standard of living, now is when the blueprint becomes real. But you must act with intention. Nothing rushes. Everything aligns. I've seen it time and again in the lives of those I guide. When someone commits to internal clarity, external support seems to meet them halfway in the most unexpected ways. A woman once shared with me that the moment she forgave someone in silence, she received a job offer the next day after months of waiting. It wasn't magic. It was alignment. And this is what I believe for you too, Libra. That if you move forward with softness, focus, and openness, you'll witness just how abundant life becomes when you finally trust it to love you back. You don't need to chase the new beginning. It's already here. You just need to say yes, and water the seed. One decision, one boundary, one sacred routine at a time. This is how your garden grows. And this is the beginning of everything. Sometimes the most extraordinary transformations begin in the quietest moments. Libra, when you've been through so much, when you've carried silence like armor, held space for others while your own heart ached, there comes a time when grace arrives, not as a thunderclap, but as a whisper. And this part of your journey is exactly that. A divine whisper. A sacred pause where you realize that something bigger than you, something gentle and wise, is already working on your behalf just beneath the surface. When you've released the past, when you've chosen to forgive without needing closure, and when you've declared, I choose peace even without all the answers, something shifts. Not always dramatically, but always deeply. This is the energetic law mirrored in the stars and echoed through every act of faith. When you align with light, light meets you halfway. I've seen it happen not just in charts or readings, but in real lives that have unraveled and healed themselves in divine timing. There's a rhythm to restoration that doesn't ask you to push, but to prepare. And preparation in this phase of your journey is simple. It's about clearing space emotionally, physically, energetically, and spiritually, so that what's meant for you can find its way in. When someone forgives after years of resentment, and then suddenly experiences a breakthrough, a new opportunity, a moment of peace, a connection that feels clean, it's not coincidence. It's the release of spiritual blockage. A karmic burden lifted. And it's no different from planting a seed after the frost and seeing it bloom in spring. It's not about luck. It's about alignment. You don't need to perform for miracles. You don't need to prove that you're ready. You just need to be open, steady, and willing to trust the invisible scaffolding being built around your next chapter. I've witnessed this in the lives of clients who have spent years waiting, hoping, doubting, and the moment they surrendered the grip of old pain, something new always found them. A home, a purpose, a kind of love that required no performance. This is the energy that surrounds you now. It's not loud. It's not forcing anything. But it is real. The people and experiences falling away aren't punishment theory, preparation. And what's rushing in will feel softer, truer, and far more rooted in who you've become. You won't have to chase it, because it will arrive at the same pace you've been walking. That's the nature of grace. That's the miracle of being met exactly where you are. Even in moments when doubt returns, because it will hold on to your faith. Not just in the universe, but in the version of yourself that kept going. The one that healed, that outgrew the pain, that decided to believe even when there was no proof. You are not a victim of your past. You are the architect of your future. The cycle that once kept you small has been interrupted. And the version of you reading this now is not the same soul that once waited to be rescued. You become your own sanctuary. If something within you knows it's time, if you feel the quiet nudge of a beginning unfolding, I invite you to anchor this moment in intention. Write in the comments, I am ready to live my life in peace, truth, and light. Not because you need to convince anyone. But because when you write it, you claim it. You make it real. And when we speak our readiness, the universe rearranges itself to meet us there. The miracle isn't far. It's already here. It's waiting for you to say yes. Libra, what if I told you that nothing about your journey has been a mistake? Not the pauses, not the heartbreaks, not even the silence that stretched longer than your hope could bear. You didn't come here today by chance. And you certainly didn't survive all you've been through just to stay in survival mode. No, my dear Libra. You were born to rise. To restore the balance. To remember the truth, you are not here to beg for love, you are here to embody it. The last card for you in this sacred spread is the world. The completion of a soul cycle. The return to wholeness. The moment where you're no longer looking outside yourself for closure, because the closure is you. You are the one who chooses to end the story that once kept you small. You are the one who finally walks out of the chapter where you only gave, and into the one where you are also ready to receive. This is the vibration of someone who has come home to themselves. Not broken, but brighter. If they reach out, you'll know exactly what to say or not say. If they stay silent, you'll still feel complete. Because now, your power is internal. You no longer need proof from the outside world to validate what your soul already knows. The scales are no longer tilted. Justice has returned. And this time, it is in your hands. And maybe this is the moment when you finally step into that truth with full presence. That you don't need to carry the past to prove how far you've come. That forgiveness is not about the other person, but about you walking lighter, sleeping deeper, and smiling again for no reason. That's freedom. That's healing. That's what being chosen truly means, not by them, but by life itself. There's a verse I return to often, one that echoes the tone of this moment so well. For I know the plans I have for you. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. That's the energy I feel around you now, Libra. A future. Hope. And peace, not as a concept, but as a daily reality. A new timeline, one that doesn't mirror the old patterns. One that begins because you dared to choose differently this time. So ask yourself now, with all honesty, what if everything you've experienced up until this point was preparing you for this exact decision? What if this is your moment to stop waiting to be rescued, and instead declare, I rescue myself? What if the miracle isn't somewhere out there, but already within you? You are not broken. You're being rebuilt from truth. You're not abandoned. You've simply outgrown the places that could no longer hold your light. And you're not behind. You're being realigned with divine timing. Let that truth settle into your chest like a calming breath. Feel what it's like to be free, not because someone let you go, but because you released yourself. Thank you, from the bottom of my heart, for staying with me until the end of this journey. Here at Zodiac Whisper Tarot, this space is more than a channel, it's a soul family. And every time you like, subscribe, and comment, you don't just support a message. You help awaken a collective. You light the way for others who are still finding their voice in the dark. You remind them and yourself that healing is not only possible, it is sacred. So if this message has stirred something in you, leave your imprint in the comments. Write this for yourself: I choose life. I forgive. I step into the light. Not for validation, but for liberation. Not because you have to, but because you're finally ready. You're not alone in this. You've never truly been. You were simply waiting for the part of you who remembered to come home. And now, Libra, it's time. Walk forward. Head high. Heart open. The light is not just ahead of you, it is you.